morning everyone, and thank you to Croftons for inviting me along. As the title of the presentation says, Kickstarting the Green Deal, a little bit about what Gentoo have done previously and what we're currently doing to finance retrofit projects. So, I think the audience here is mostly social housing or registered providers today, so we're quite well at getting our name out there, so I assume that everyone's probably heard of Gentoo.
No. Thanks.
Yeah, and I've currently got a love-hate relationship going on with Inside Housing, where we're quite often pop up. So, but yeah, it's Gentoo Group, which I work for is Gentoo Green, split into 4 companies. Our social housing arm, which has about 30,000 properties, I think, on the cards at the minute, and about 70,000 tenants. We've got a construction arm, so I think, as you were saying earlier, we've built our own houses, we've got mixed tenure estates in Sunderland, and then we've got a property development arm where we sell those houses, and also a social investment arm, Gentoo Living. So Gentoo Green, a bit of the organisation that I work for, is the sustainability arm of the business. So the bit that I'm passionate about, and our strapline there, is shaping a green future. Bit of a challenge working in social housing because that is not the top of the agenda for everyone, especially when dealing with housing managers or asset managers and people. And I'll have some comments about that in a second. So, at Gentoo, we met the decent home standard, well, almost. You know, you've always got your mock-ups on some properties where they won't let you in do your installation, but pretty much finished in 2005. So we were looking at the next step. How could we take it further? What could we do to the properties? We put in the nice new kitchens. You know, we've got the roof done on a lot of the properties. What's the next stage? And the heating programme is winding up, it's coming to an end. So this is our journey in pictures on what we did. First of all, we went out to find funding. Who would fund us at Gentoo to experiment on our properties and on our tenants? So that was quite difficult, but we started off with a project called Retrofit Reality, and that was on 139 properties. We got TSA funding for that back in the day, and through the HCA as well. And that was to put a range of different measures on properties with tenants living in at the time. So that was one of them was solar thermal. We looked at double glazing, which was not, as always comes to surprise people, part of our original decent home standard, because it didn't have to be. We also put in aerated taps and showers for properties that hadn't had showers, and measures like that. And we found that we did get a reduction in energy consumption and fuel costs, but not as much as we were expecting. And that came down to, does everyone here use SAP calculations? And does everyone here agree with me that they don't represent your average social housing tenant? A lot of the properties were vulnerable people living in them, so they couldn't go out to work. So their consumption was higher in some cases. Other cases, their consumption was a lot lower because they were prioritising other things to spend their money on. So it was just all over the place on that one. But that showed us that what we needed to do was get real data before embarking on the next retrofit project, which we did when we got funded from the TSA, and that was to do 6 passive house retrofits. What I'd say about passive house retrofits is it costs £70,000 a property, so I doubt very much that anyone's going to be doing that as a realistic retrofit for the future. So the next stage is how we funded things is through looking at other funding. So we've got CERT funding, which is coming to an end, taken over by CESP funding, and then looking towards the Green Deal and the Energy Company obligation. So whereas we've stopped applying for funding pots of money, we're going down the other route of looking at how we're going to fund the investment plan as a whole. before we started that, we did the Page You Save pilot. I think I recognise some faces where I've been out talking with Sustainable Homes Forum, where I've talked quite a lot about the Page You Save pilot. This was our way of saying we really, really want to help our tenants reduce their fuel bills, but we haven't got the money to do all the measures that we would like to do. And that was, talking a lot with our asset management team, our investment plan team, and looking at the measures that we wanted to do. So we worked with the Energy Saving Trust and DEC, which was very interesting, and I'll come on to that in a moment. And our first phase was, we said, look, we'll get void properties, we'll put these energy efficient measures on, it'll be great, we'll advertise them with a Page You Save charge, already advertised, it'll be brilliant. We're massively affected, the void turnaround time. We forgot to tell some of the housing managers, so the tenancy agreements weren't changed. We didn't tell our property shop, some of the adverts didn't go out correctly. Void properties was then, it was a nightmare. So we had to take a step back, and that step back was when we actually started talking to the housing managers, the asset managers, the property shop people, our legal team, getting the tenancy agreement sorted. So it was a really good learning curve, because for people like myself and my director, we're really passionate about the environment, about reducing our tenants' fuel bill costs, so we tended to run at things full force and then pick up the pieces afterwards, which didn't always go down too well. So the next phase, and this wasn't officially in the scheme unfortunately, I went out to our Auckland homes. It's a sheltered scheme, 26 bungalows, really lovely people. I said, yes, Page You Save pilot, would you like to take part? Absolutely. I found out that their boilers were running at an efficiency of G. They were actually rated F. So when I went back to the Energy Saving Trust and DEC, they went, no, we're not going to fund that, we don't care, it's got to be an F-rated boiler. I then had to go back, where our youngest tenant in here was 76, and say, oh, you can't be on the scheme, and that was not fun at all. So we then decided to look at, why don't we put solar PV on, and look at how we can use that in a pays model. And you can't, because it won't pay for itself and rent would be too high. So what we did was we put a £1 charge on, and this is how we're modelling it and going forward. Any PV going on a property, the property has a £1 charge attached to it, and that's for the term, that's for the life of the property. It's not for a 25-year period, and that's for the ongoing maintenance. And when the tenancy changes, that £1 will be incorporated into the rent price. So we see it as you don't itemise your rent sometimes for things like call-outs, maintenance, things like that, it's all incorporated in. We see that the maintenance of a solar panel should be included in that, and that's our justification for putting the £1 charge on. But we still managed to get some other measures on the Auckland Homes properties, and we've actually produced an Auckland Homes story out of this with the tenants' help, and it's really, really good, especially as, we've got some interviews with some of our tenants who are in their 90s, and they tell it like it is. They don't make it flowery. So, and then the last phase was, we thought, well, let's do external wall insulation in the Page You Save model. So we did all the rest of the measures and tried to include the external wall insulation. That doesn't work, as you know. So yeah, external wall insulation, we thought we would maybe put an extra charge on for the tenants to cover the cost of that. It didn't work, so we've heavily subsidised the external wall insulation. We couldn't get CES funding because even though they are extremely vulnerable clients, the multiple indices of something or other, which I can't remember, always goes up like deprivation, thank you very much, I think is out of date. I don't know if anyone agrees with me. I've gone into areas and I know that they're severely deprived areas, but because this database that's held by an energy company doesn't say so, you can't get the funding. But again, it's, as Pryke was saying, you jump through their hoops to eventually get the funding. So, but there you go. We only dropped in the end one tenant out of the last phase of the project. Not interested, and that was just because they didn't want to pay the extra charge. because of the works going on, so that was fair enough. They thought that it should be free. And it was just really to highlight that whereas on this project we tried our best to go back and get actual meter readings and actual data, so that when we're comparing the actual savings we get, which is a bit of a moot point here because I haven't got the actual savings on here for this particular part of the project, but it kind of shows you that there is disparity for social housing tenants on what they're actually using, so the carbon emissions and the actual consumption. There is a disparity, but you can't really see it very well on there. But again, that's in our report, which it can be made available to you. But this is really interesting actually. We've been modelling and we use PV salt model before we install, but we're using passive systems to monitor exactly how much we're generating on every panel that we've installed. And it's really easy once you get a passive system signed up, because you can just print off the data. So we're on to September, so you can see how the next months have leveled out because we haven't got the actual readings. But you can see our actuals compared to the PV Sol and the SAP is really good. We're overproducing, so we're really happy with that. And we've been out and talked to tenants, looked over their fuel bills, and they are saving more than they are paying. So the golden rule that everyone's heard about is definitely working with this. And this is on, it says Hillview Road, that's the Auckland Homes Properties. So it was a bit of a success. We managed to get tenants willingly to sign up, in the most part, to pay for energy efficient measures. And in fact, we had a lot of tenants who've been on our website and seen that we're doing this project, ringing us up to ask to be on the next project. We didn't know we were going to have a next project, so we just took their details. So we thought, well, wait a second, everyone's saying that social housing tenants won't pay for anything, you know, they all want something for free. And we thought, this actually flies in the face of that. So we might go out and speak to them ourselves and get some real data. So we did something called the Green Debate. And it was myself and our team went out and spoke to about 600 of our tenants. I say spoke, sometimes it was email or letters, and we sent surveys out in our newsletters. So we were quite impressed with the 600 responses that we got, and I think you'd be quite impressed with the results there. So would you be prepared to pay for some energy saving measures? We've got 504 yeses, so that's 84%. And that was to be put on the weekly charge, the rent. So, and if yes, how much would you be prepared to pay? So it was like the over £5 under. If you've read anything about the Page Save model, most of the payments on the original pays for the new boiler, new windows, and some of the other measures came out is about £4.50, depending on how many windows they were having installed. So we thought that was quite encouraging. 55%, like we expected that. If you're given a choice of less or more, you're definitely going to go for the less, I would. So broken down into the measures that people would actively be willing to pay more for, one of the biggest ones coming out there is the solar PV, and it's the free electricity, obviously the side of it. Is the draw. Now, I know Colette was saying earlier, it's kind of like moving away from saying you get free electricity, and we found that was really important as well, and also really important to distinguish between solar thermal, because I'll go out and speak to people and say, are you interested in the solar PV? And like, well, no, I don't want a massive hot water tank taking up my airing cupboard, and things like that. So, and the power of tenants' opinions influencing other tenants' opinions, as you might be aware, is immense. So you'll get one person in the street saying, oh, you don't want that. You'll lose your airing cupboard space, blah, blah, they'll wreck your house, they're going to rip out your kitchen, the rest of the street, and then it goes to the next street, oh no, I heard you're going to take my kitchen out and my bathroom. Like this one. So that's moving on from the sort of the Page Save, the Green Debate. We thought, right, what we're going to do is look at the Green Deal, look at that sort of model and make it work for a social housing provider. So it's I'll come on to the adding solar PV increases the investment. return on investment. We'll have to rethink that one a little bit. But energy efficiency improvements made at home, and the costs are paid back through the energy bills. So we're working with British Gas at the minute, and I knew going into this that getting our tenants to agree to pay their bills, the extra charge for having energy efficiency measures through their fuel bill was going to be a challenge, and I wasn't wrong. I put my hand and said I wouldn't want to do that because I like the freedom of going on Uswitch or whatever and switching supplies whenever I want to, but even if I don't. So at the minute we're at 50% of the tenants that are currently with British Gas have said no. So, and that was quite a small number of them. We've not got anyone to change over at the minute. And I'm happy saying it because we're working towards trying to get this model to work. But tenants want to pay for things through their rent, not through an energy bill. But it's a challenge we're working with it at the moment. So we looked at the measures that we were going to offer, obviously PV not being one of them. So that's why the fix isn't a massive part of our experiment with Green Deal. But we're offering in cessed areas and areas where we're having roof replacements, these sorts of offers. So we're doing window replacements, heating upgrades. We're finished now, we've got official work on our installation. And today, we're calling it was called Kickstarting the Green Deal, but we've actually called it the Energy Saving Bundle. Because there's different bundles you can get. If you want, you can get 2 windows, 4 windows, depending on how many windows you needed. And if you've got a roof replacement coming up, you can then additionally get the solar PV. And that is still for an extra £1 a week. The windows are charged at about 12 pence a week, I think. And the windows are charged at 12 pence a week for 15 years, but indefinitely for the solar panels. And the heating is free. Because we would charge for replacing someone's heating from a G-rated boiler. So at the minute, our figures are total number of properties that we've identified is 1,055. This is just on the energy saving bundle project. Tenants that we've engaged directly, including our no accesses, is 887. So we've been doing this over the last 8 weeks. We've got 745 agreements and 145 refusals. I've actually been out and spoken to some of the people about why they're refusing. A lot of it's about not understanding what the measures will do for them, about the minimising disturbance, and it's understanding what concerns people have. I've been out to a property, another bungalow, with a lady who said that she'd just decorated her hallway and she was 85 and she just couldn't be dealing with the stress of if she had a solar panel on, what would happen. And I explained, because we looked at where her fuse box was, and it was in a cupboard by the door. So if you think, if the solar panel's going on the roof, the inverter's in the loft space, she's never going to see any wires. So it's literally taking her through that process. And I think it's really important that someone who knows what's going on is at the property to speak to the tenant, and that just sort of allays their fears. But by using these sorts of mechanisms, we believe that you can make your homes more energy efficient and more quickly. And it's about reprioritising your investment plan as well. And that's why, having really spoken to our asset managers, identified that it's much better to look at our roofing programme and go with the roofing programme as well. And then also when I've been out and spoken to tenants, the ones that are refusing, I thought it might be £1 charge that was cutting off, because we're very, very conservative on our estimates of savings, because it's massively down to behaviour change, and we tell them that they have to change their behaviour, and we're telling them exactly how to do it, you know, the washing machine on during the day, that sort of thing. But I was very surprised to find that a lot of the people didn't want the solar panels on the roof because of the way it looked. So they were getting choices of free electricity through the day, big reduction in your fuel bills, but they didn't like it. And the best one was when I went out to see a lady who just moved into her property, and I looked at the roof quickly, so I think it'll be on the front. She went, oh no, I don't want the solar panels. And then my colleague came over, who was doing the survey, oh no, it'll be on the back, and she went, oh yeah, I'll have it then. But if you think of a street, and her living room's at the front, and she really doesn't like the look of solar panels, how often do you look at the roof when you're going home? But how often do you see your neighbour's roof across the street? So I really didn't understand her argument on that one, but I didn't say anything, I didn't point it out. So I forgot to decide. So having spoken to our asset managers, we basically looked at how we could rejig our investment plan to really push this side of things. So that's where I've been explaining the Green Deal, which is our energy saving bundle project, is in sort of Low Ford and Hendon, which is what we've identified as two cess areas, and they are definitely two cess areas. So there really is the right levels of deprivation. And we're using cess funding as well to do external rendering on our multi-occupancy properties. So they're not high rises because we've done those, but they're sort of the three-storey flats that we've got. We think it's the first sort of true Green Deal pilot going on at the moment. We're speaking to our tenants continually to see if we can improve what we're offering them, and as you know, tenants will always give you the truth and tell you how they feel about how things are going. And obviously we're looking at we are working with British Gas, and we are trying to get the sign up increased on having it recovered through the fuel bill. So we have recovered extra spend that we didn't expect to recover because of the sign up. So and the customers saving more, but also we didn't expect that they would agree to pay the 12 pence per window per week charge. So that was a bonus for us. But also we think that doing it this way is a sustainable approach for large-scale programmes. The downside, and I've been making some extra notes as well, on the legal side, some things that I've kind of skipped over, but it's really, really important, is the tenancy agreements and visiting your tenants. So that's why I was saying doing it on a large scale, you get the whole team involved and you can plan a programme rather than doing it hodgepodge, because we've got to do a pre-work visit, serve a preliminary notice, 2 weeks later go back with the final notice of variation, then we do a post-works visit, and in there we do a behaviour change, and then we realised that's a bit excessive. Our tenants, you know, as much as we think that they love us, they don't love us that much. And if you see someone's face, you know, they're getting a new heating system and they're getting someone visiting their house at least 5 times over the duration of the works. So for the next stage of the project, what we've done is, I think someone mentioned it earlier, we've combined the delivery of the notice of variation with the pre-works. So the pre-works will go, would you agree to this? And say, yes, well, here's your preliminary, if you sign it. And then on the next visit, we do the customer survey and the behaviour change. And the whole time we're getting the behaviour change, we've developed leaflets just for our tenants and just for what they're getting installed. So if they're getting windows and heating systems, they get a leaflet for that. If they've got the solar PV going in, they get another leaflet for that. So, and it's written, that's going from our customer feedback as well. And as much as you want to impress upon them that changing their behaviour is really important, if you do it over 5 or 6 visits, they're going to turn off, and that's what they were saying, is they're getting fed up of being pestered, especially as we insist on taking lots of meter readings as well. So the second one, and that shouldn't be dismissed, has anyone in the room worked with the DNO? I think I mentioned earlier, district network operators, if you're fitting solar PV and you're doing it on a large scale programme, they're dealing with a massive, massive increase in applications and possibly didn't have the right systems in place at the time. So, but and then again, finding the right PV panel supplier. Obviously, Romag are the best in the industry. I would say that because Gentoo bought them in April. But no, it's serious finding the right PV panel. We've been working with, on the other side of what I do, is tender for work to install, because we've got our own team of installers now. We let them practice on our own properties, so we reckon that they're pretty good at going out and doing other properties. And we've learned through looking at designing systems and things like that, that yeah, you can get really, really cheap panels, do you know where they're coming from? And are you aware of that? Are you certain about their reliability? And for the future proofing, you know, a lot of companies want 25-year warranties and replacement warranties. Are you going to be able to get those with some of the manufacturers at the minute? So it's looking for a good European or well-known and well thought of installed upon a manufacturer further afield. And there are quite a few of those as well. So, and then understanding the rent a roof option, Gentoo absolutely did not want to go with this option because we're not seeing that putting PV on as a way of making money. We're seeing it as a way of paying for our investment plan. And if it stays at the 21 pence, if you can get the financing, if you can rejig your investment plan, then it works. If it drops to 16.8 pence, I'm not sure we'll get board approval, and that's going to fall away for us as well. But if we get it at the 21 pence, you know, you don't get installed a bathroom and have it pay for itself in 20 years' time. So, you know, it's still on the cards for us, definitely. Thank you very much.